Hello again. This recap revision video is all about the programming construct selection. This is a control structure that allows a program or algorithm to make decisions, directing the flow of control to the different branches based on whether a condition is true or false. It enables programs to act dynamically using the if, then, else or case structures to evaluate conditions. So we're going to learn about this construct while looking at this scenario, positive or negative. We need to write a pseudocode program that asks the user to enter a number and outputs whether it's a positive or negative number. We assume that 0 is considered positive. So anything below 0 is what we're considering negative, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is declare and assign any variables we may need. If we are accepting an input, we definitely need a variable to store that input. And if there's anything else you can see in the scenario, we need to consider that also. Pause the video and use your prior learning to see if you can declare and initialize your variables without me. Okay, so here we are. For this particular program, we only need to store one input, and so one variable is fine. I have declared the variable as number 1, as integer, as we know it's going to be a number, and then I have initialized that variable to hold the value of 0 at the start of the program. So now I'm going to think about the actual program. The first thing I need to do is ask the user to enter a number. So remember, there are actually 2 ways we can do this. I didn't show this in my previous video, but just as we have different learners and we do things different ways, I'm going to show you 2 versions. So you could have your output message on one line, okay, saying please enter a number, and then have an input with just the variable name of where that input is going to be stored. Okay, number 1. Some students prefer this. It's 2 lines of code, but each task is on a separate line, and it really breaks down the process of the sequence. I could then, or the alternative way to do this is input, okay, writing our prompt again, so please enter a number, and then at the end of the input line stating what variable is going to store the user input. So it's 1 line, okay, you could argue that that's more efficient, it's quicker, it's 1 line, but it's a little bit more complex. You have to remember 2 things in 1 line. You have to remember your input, your prompt to the user, and the variable to store the data. This option, however, the first option, is 2 lines, but it's really broken down and decomposed. This is the output message, this is the prompt to the user, and then on the second line, this is where the user would input their value, okay? So I'll leave you to decide which option you prefer. I do prefer this option below, the second option, so I'm going to delete that so things don't get too confusing, okay? Now that we have our input statement for our user input, we now need to create the condition statement to check whether the number is negative or positive. You can do this by using the if statement, capital letters, remember, for any pseudocode command or action term. So if number 1, or should we say if the value held in the variable number 1 is greater than or equal to 0, then new line, and indented, because what we're doing here is we're inside our if statement. So if this condition is true, then output this is a, oh, sorry, nearly said the wrong one then, positive number, okay? Because anything greater than or equal to 0 is positive, because that's what it says in our task. So then we need an else. Why do we need an else? Well, what if the number input is not greater than or equal to 0? Then we need to have an action or something happen if our condition is false. And this is what the else statement is for. What the else statement means is ultimately, if this is not true, so if this is false, then we move to the else. The program will not look at this line. It will be totally ignored because this is not true. Okay? So the else, if you like, is kind of your, if false, do this. So we say else, we then indent, because this is still part of our if statement. So indentation is very, very important. And then we output, this is a negative number. Okay? Something that we always must remember to do is end our if statement, okay, with an end if. We do this because the program may continue and anything to do with this condition is now finished. So we are now back in Python. We have the task that we've just completed here commented out so that we can refer to it if needed. And we are going to start with initializing our number1 variable to an integer input. Okay, remember when we open up to, when we use two open brackets, we make sure we have two closed brackets at the end there. Inside our two speech marks for our prompt, which is going to be this, please enter a number. So I'll just put that in there. And then we're going to do our first if statement in Python. So notice here that we have capitals. In Python, we do not use capitals, okay? But it's very, very similar. So if number1 is greater than or equal to 0, then. We don't use a then, we use a colon. As long as we get that line right, when we press enter, notice the auto indentation. Python is already indented because whatever is inside the if statement is literally inside with this indentation. So then we're going to output, what's our true prompt? It's output, this is a positive number. Okay, brilliant. So then now it's indented, but we want to go back. We need to align with our if statement. Okay, so now we put our else. Notice the pretty printing, the colors change. It's letting you know this is right. Okay, so then we get our auto indentation again once we press enter, print, and then this is the, don't forget your speech marks and your closed brackets. I always try to do that so I don't forget and then come back for my message, which I'm going to cheat and copy and paste from above. And there we go, okay? The difference with Python is you don't need to write end if. It happens automatically. If I start writing here now, I will say print program end, just so you can see when we run it, anything that is not inside the if statement will not be part of the if statement, okay? So let's see how this runs. I'm going to run module, okay, and save. Oh, I've got an error. What's my error? This is fantastic. This is what happens all the time, very common. I've got one speech mark here. I forgot my speech mark on the other end. Okay, so now I will try to run it again. Hopefully there are no more glitches. Oh, yes, I have. What have I done here? Again, I've forgotten my speech marks, okay? I've done that purposely. These are very common errors, so always forget your brackets in your speech marks. Now, let's run that one more time. This should work this time, okay? Let's enter a number. I'm going to enter number 10. and this is a positive number, program end. Okay, I'm just going to run this one more time, but I'm going to fix, I didn't like the way my number joined my string, so I'm going to put a colon and an extra space there, and then I'm going to run it one more time and test my negative statement. So please enter a number, I prefer that space, -10, this is a negative number, program end. I hope your program's working just like mine. Well done.